growing up as a kid in the South, Selma specifically, to me, it makes sense that you would be an activist based on where you lived and what you know, if you paid attention to your history, if you were involved in your community. How'd you grow up?
That's true. I think on some level around Selma, but believe it or not, my family felt like they were very clear. You're going to go to school, you're going to get a degree, you're going to get your husband, you're going to get you a good job with some good benefits, and that's how this going to roll, right? And so even early on, my activism wasn't necessarily something that my family was like trying to push me towards. As a matter of fact, that seeing activists be murdered, that activists in our community had financially were struggling. The activists in our community oftentimes were embittered, and many times they were beat down. And so, they wanted me to go another mainstream route because they thought it would bring protection to me. And I would love to say that it was my environment that created, and maybe on some level that's true, that created this space for me to become an activist. But the truth of the matter is, it's kind of in the words of Lady Gaga. In some ways, I think I was born this way. I never, I'm serious. Like I remember being a little kid. I always tell this story about, I like Easter shoes. I guess I still like shoes, right? And so I had, this is where it all starts from. But I had these patent leather Easter shoes. Do you remember the patent leather shoes that if you scuff them, they would have the black scuff mark on it? Well, I had these patent leather Easter shoes, and I was a little kid. I was like in kindergarten or something. And I never, ever, ever could stand seeing people take advantage of other people. I don't know what something about me would get activated when I would see this. And so I remember one Easter, I got these white patent leather shoes and some socks with some ruffles around it. And you can tell me nothing. It didn't matter if I had on jeans. It didn't matter if I had on shorts. I was wearing my Easter shoes, right? To the point where even in my family, it was kind of like a joke. They was like, she gonna put them Easter shoes on. I sure was. And so I remember there was this fight. There was on my block. There was these big boys that were getting ready to, that were messing with this little boy, right? Who I knew was scared and who was afraid. Now here I am, I'm the run of the bunch. I'm the smallest of the bunch. And I'm a girl, by the way, right? And there was nothing in my mind that I had any concern whether they beat me up or not. The only thing I was thinking about is, damn, I'm gonna scuff up my Easter shoes. Other than that, I was ready for it. So I say that to say, in some ways, I never remember it always, my entire life, I was always kind of obsessed with two things. The first thing was I never liked to see people be treated unfairly or treated in a way that I thought that that's not right. I had this kind of sense of you should treat people well, right? And then the second thing is I always had this fascination with power. There's also a running joke in my family that anywhere we would go, and I often would go with my grandmother because I lived the first part of my life actually in Mobile, Alabama with my grandmother. We would go, wherever we would go, I would say, I called her Mama. I was like, Mama, who owned this? Who owns this? And she was like, well, we would be in Kmart. I said, Mama, who owned Kmart? And she's like, baby, I don't know them people. Like, why are you asking me? It didn't matter where we went. Right. And so I always had this desire, and I, it was a desire. Now, as I'm older, I realized I always had this fascination with power. I wanted to know who had the power to do things. And I always had this sense of that's something that you are not supposed to abuse. You're not supposed to use that against people. And so throughout kind of growing up, I had, for the most part, a relatively kind of normal childhood. My family's the bomb. Let me say that again. My family's the bomb. Right? They were working class. Just really good people. That really, I think at the end of the day, more than anything, they didn't have money, but they really had a wealth of ethics and belief on how you treat people and how you move forward, and so and it was interesting because I had the extended family experience. It was my grandparents, and my grandparents were always old. My granddad was born in 1905 and my grandmother was 1910. So I was like, I saw a picture when they were young and I was like, well, who are these people? They were always older people and old. And so I had this wisdom of these older people that, I kind of grew under. And I think that was part of the shaping that was part of my shaping. It was my brother and I think that was part of my shaping. And then this kind of natural inclination I had towards this kind of understanding power and feeling like we could, and I was a happy child. I was a child. I was like, everybody's supposed to be happy. Aren't you supposed to be happy? Like, how can I make you happy? And so all of those things, I think, shaped who I am, even as an activist before the politics. It was my humanity that actually shaped who I am. And it was the politics that kind of gave me some texture around, okay, how was necessary, how this whole thing around power, how it plays itself out, and what I could actually do to actually shape that. And so that was part of, kind of how I grew up. I grew up with this notion of, and then seeing these different things that I didn't have the politics to understand it at the time. But I remember thinking, what is so magical about the railroad tracks? And no matter where I would go, right, on this side of the railroad tracks, the houses looked a certain kind of way. And that's where white people live, right? And then on this side of the railroad tracks, that's where Black people or people of color lived. And so there was something about that. I had a deep sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but that ain't right. Something ain't right about this. And so I always had kind of this inclination, which I do believe that is just a part of kind of a calling. And I'm not so certain that that's not in all of us, when I talk to children,
Yeah, it's right from wrong. The ability to see the difference in a positive way and a negative way, you learn that right away as a child. I could see you looking at these railroad tracks thinking, well, why is that like that and this is like this? Right. When I grew up, because I grew up in LA, I remember telling my mom, watching the news, I would only see Black people as gangsters and robbers and prostitutes and pimps. And it was always this image watching the news. And I was like, that doesn't represent my family. That doesn't represent the Black people I know. And while you're not able to articulate it, those images sit in your spirit.
I don't know if I've ever publicly shared this story. I think, I actually had seriously contemplated, but I wasn't making a lot of money at the time. I think I was making like $6 an hour. I had attempted to have an abortion, and the challenge with it was I came up with the money. My son's father was really clear about he wasn't going to participate. I wouldn't even tell him. He was like, he wasn't going to participate. And so I saved up the money, and I had gone to, it's interesting, I had gone to an Arby's on my way to the place and had some food and got to the place, which was 2 hours away, the clinic 2 hours away, and my purse was gone. So all of this money that I had saved, and was a big deal for me because I wasn't making any money. It was done. It was gone. And so,
what happened?
I don't
Who stole
know.
the money?
My purse was gone. I don't know where my purse was. No, nothing. And so, I was like, okay, I will say this, it's a very long kind of story around how this happened. But when I was 7 months pregnant, by this time I had moved back home. We're excited. We're about to have the baby. And this particular day, I decided that I was going to go pick my baby's crib. I was going to go and get all this stuff for his crib. Because at that point I had leaned into it. And I got a letter in the mail from Arby's. And I opened up the letter, and it's like a $700 check. And I'm like, what is this? Where is this from? So it's what essentially happened, which I had no idea earlier. My purse, I had left my purse in Arby's, and the manager and one of the workers stole it and split the money. And so the worker got caught stealing, and the manager fired him. And so the worker turned on him. And so Arby's wanted me to testify against them. I didn't. But
that was the money that was in your purse?
It was the same money. It was the same money. Yeah.
So they gave you your money.
They gave me my money back. Wow. Right. So it was just, that's why, I think part of what I really understand is I also understand I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And there's some things that I control, and there's some things that I do not control, right? Mm-hmm. And so whenever I'm kind of led in spirit to move towards something, right? And even that, like I said, even the sense of justice, I didn't need anybody to politicize me to tell me that these houses don't look like these houses, and the people over there don't look like those folks. I didn't need a whole political story. I'm just looking at them like, something ain't right with that. Why these people can't have houses like that, right? And so I think on some level it is all, each of us have this sense. There's an innate sense. There's, of course, we're socialized to believe some things are right and wrong, and that comes from a variety of things. But there's some basic pieces that a child like hits another child. That child knows that's just not right. You're causing pain, and so I think that part of all of us. I'm hoping that even with my work, which is more, it's less political than it is around how do we awaken kind of this humanity in us to move us to action so that we're willing to actually be able to protect and prevent other people from causing harm. That's it. That's all I want to do.